Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we have a special topic. Not only do we have a special guest, but we have a special topic. I'm going to light that up for us in just a minute here. So the topic being this, that if you're watching this on video, you'll see in the background there a little dog. His name is Mr. Willie. And Mr. Willie is a 20 plus year old dog. And that's our topic today. So, Jenna, when I first heard of, and of course we have a special guest, which is Miss Jenna, which I'll introduce in just a moment. But here's how this came about. My wife, so Jenna works for us. She works in one of our businesses in our organic cafe. And one day my wife comes to me and says, "Do you know Jenna has a dog that's over 20 years old?" And the moment that happens, for like a lot of people, we're gonna dive into this question specifically. But immediately, I'm just intrigued. I obviously have a lot of dogs. My wife and I have spent a lot of our time, energy, resources, our love in our life toward helping these little guys. We have 8 dogs. We have a dog food store. My wife rescues dogs. She board and trains them. So this is a big part of our life. But the moment I hear that you have a 20-year-old dog, immediately I'm intrigued. And so there's a lot of questions, Jenna, that I have for you that even though I get to see you on a regular basis, I've intentionally held them back,
Yeah.
knowing that we're going to have this moment for us to just have this conversation. And I think the questions I have, I bet you are going to be the same questions that so many people would have who absolutely adore, love, and cherish the relationship and the bond and the gift that they have in their four-legged friends. So with that being said, everyone, welcome to the Health Made Simple show. I'm going to introduce Jenna, and I'm going to let her introduce her 20-year-old dog or whatever age. Maybe you tell us how old he is, what type of breed he is or is not, and then also a little bit about you. Like how do you get here? Other than me just asking you, tell me a little bit about your background, maybe Jenna, with even your health philosophy, or if any training you did or did not have, or is this just always been a passion that you've just kind of followed?
Sure, sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Bart, for having me. I've admired you and your family and all that you bring to the community for all these years that you have. So it feels like an honor. And anytime I can talk about Mr. Willie, I will. So I'm grateful to have him here with me by my side today. So a little bit about me. I kind of grew up in middle America, St. Louis, Missouri. Not necessarily any right or wrong direction towards health and wellness. I kind of had to find my own way, as a lot of us do through circumstances and things that happen in life. And I did work in a natural setting with a lot of supplements and vitamins in my mid 20s, and I learned a lot about health and wellness in that regard. But it always comes back to what you've said before, eating from God's garden. So, what are we providing our bodies and our minds and our spirits with in the most holistic approach? And slowly but surely over, my lifespan, I've just learned more and more and more. And that helps you refine what you're eating, what you're consuming, what you're around, all of the things. And when that translates as humans, it should also kind of trickle down to the beings that you're taking care of, whether it's children or animals that are your children, right? So Mr. Willie has turned 23 in May of this year,
Wow.
and he has been my partner for 17 years. And he's been my longest standing relationship that I have had with a partner. And it has been one of the most rewarding experiences that I can have. And I believe a lot of that trickles down to the health and wellness of my life getting better and better through circumstances. I also observed and witnessed the health style of his life getting better and better. And really, it's just kind of taking care of those things and moderating.
Mm.
He's
Yeah.
awake right now. He looks like he's sleeping, but he's listening.
In doing so, you said 17 years. So that means that you had him after. So he had a different life or a different home prior to you.
He must have. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So I lived in Memphis, Tennessee for 1 year when I was 20 years old, and I went to an adoption center to get a cat. And I walked right in, and the sweet 6-year-old dog, he was 6 at the time, was just sitting in his cage. And it was, and you understand, you have many animals, so you understand that pack and that love. But as soon as I saw him and we saw each other, there was not a doubt in my mind that he was going to come home with me. Now, if you would have asked me then if I would have known that he was going to live with me this long, I might not have believed it, but I would have gone for that record.
Yeah. That's amazing. Glad to share that because so often I think when we think of getting a dog or bringing a new family member in, we often think it has to be this new puppy.
Yep.
And I appreciate you sharing that because we've had many rescues, and some of the best dogs we ever had have had prior owners, in prior
Mhm.
lifestyles. So it's great to see that you got a second chance, and what a heck of a second chance he got. All right, so inevitably when people hear, at least it was my first thought that came to my mind was when you introduce someone sees you with Mr. Willie, and I had an opportunity to meet Mr. Willie. I got to imagine the very first question that most people ask, and correct me if I'm wrong, is what do you feed your dog? Is that one of the first questions?
Absolutely. Yep.
So
And
let's go in that direction.
one of the first questions is actually, is that a puppy? And it's been like that for years. When we go on our walks, it's children, it's adults. They'll be like, "Oh, is that a puppy?" And then that sparks the conversation. And I'm like, "Puppy at heart, but in the age realm, he's the exact opposite." So it's beautiful that they see that energy in him as being so young and youthful when he is 140 something in human years.
So yeah, which I think a lot of us can relate to that, right? Because a lot of people, oh, you're a 50 or 40, whatever it may be, and you're like, wow, I feel like I'm 20.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Hmm.
the energy is so important. There's so much to be said about that, which we'll get into. So let's navigate the road of food just a little bit. I'm so intrigued. So
Yes.
well, maybe you can give me a little bit of the idea of maybe what you are choosing to feed him today. And I
Hmm.
gotta imagine that this has changed over time. And then maybe walk me back because it's always a journey. And
Absolutely.
and this will be great for the people out there that might be thinking about like change is so hard or so difficult. So maybe just Jenna, just share where is he today with his diet, and then
Hmm.
where was he, and
Yep.
then maybe some of the path that got you up to this spot.
Absolutely. So the diet that we're on right now, because he is a senior, he's actually getting 3 meals a day. I figured I'd give him a little extra calorie intake for his older age, which I've read, and I believe it helps him quite a bit with his longevity right now. But in the morning, it's all homemade food. So in the morning, I'll wake up and I will prepare him seasonal vegetables, and the primary is an organ blend meat that I get from a local provider. Caveman's Cupboard, he has a pet blend that is organ and beef. And I ration that out, and I give him an egg. I use duck eggs. And then I provide whether it's carrots, Brussels sprouts. Honestly, a lot of the produce that I get from my farmer friends, he's also eating the vegetables as well. Because that's how it should be in my diet. So I provide for that as well. So we're going for high protein. We're going for as clean as possible. And then one big thing that I feel like is very important for him in his old age, as is any dog, is the hydration factor. So in summertime, I'm incorporating more cucumbers into his meal, and then obviously keeping a decent amount of water because we need to continue to have fluids in our body and have that kind of push along the health aspects. So I use a few supplements in his older age as well. I do some probiotics and prebiotics. And then right now he's on a mushroom blend as well. And I kind of see that through until I change it up and kind of keep those boosts in different ways. But I don't keep them on the same thing because I feel like the body gets used to it. But I also don't over supplement because I don't want it to be too hard on his body. So I'm very selective on what I'm giving him in those ways. And so he'll have that for breakfast and for lunch. And then for dinner, he has, it'll either be chicken, it'll either be the organ blend again, or it's ground beef. And sometimes I'll do fish. I'll get some fresh fish and I'll cook it for me. He gets a little slice as well. And the one thing I think that kind of deters people from maybe taking that holistic approach is they think it's too expensive. When in reality, I believe that all of the nutritional food that I'm giving him as supplements keep him so healthy that he does not have to go to the vet. He does not have to have any extra care taken care of because he is in such good health. And you asked me, what I fed him before and what brought me to that. So when I was in my mid 20s, I very vividly remember I was feeding him dry dog food, just like we all think we should do, right? It's you get a dog, you get the toys, you get the dog food, you try to find the best dry food you can. And I remember him walking away from the bowl. And that sparked my curiosity of, it's not that he's not hungry, but he knows he doesn't want it because he doesn't like it. And from there, I started to do my research, and I slowly but surely went from a dry dog food, started incorporating beans, started incorporating the meats and the vegetables. And Bart, I'm not joking, this was probably 15 years ago now. He instantly became a younger dog because of it. A younger dog, and that was 15 years ago. He was older, eating dry dog food, and unhealthier than when I switched it over. And that's because he's eating real food. And it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of prep work. But if you can't set aside 5 or 10 minutes to prepare fresh food for your dog, maybe the priorities are a little bit different, Like maybe consider it, because 17 years later, it's worth it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what so many things right there. But literally, so that conversation right there about when you talk about the prep, certainly cost, people think about that. And I agree with you 100%. It's something we can certainly navigate better than most people think if they just put a
Absolutely.
little bit of the effort in. And then the other part about the effort. So, I'm in healthcare and I've been there for 30 years. And uh, consistently, I'll tell people, you get your diet right, you're going to be all right,
Yep.
period.
Yep.
You don't get the diet right, anything and most everything is going to go wrong. That's the reality. Our
Mm-hmm.
vitality, our energy, our ability to
Yep.
connect with other human beings, you name it, all of it will be a disarray if we don't get the food right. So then I'll also get the kickback, the pushback on it so
Mm-hmm.
hard to that. And I think what I'm hearing you're saying is that you get an option. You can either choose to put that energy and effort into them, or you might choose the other thing. So what you just said there, you kind of snuck it in. So less vet visits. Those are traumatic. Like every time we've ever had to go to a vet, it's never by choice. It's
Never.
by emergency.
Yep.
It's fear and worry and concern and the costs that all build up.
Yep.
Yeah, so many things here. And I love also the fact that you've kind of recognized on your own just some of the most, it seems like common sense. And yet sometimes I think we have to hear it, that food should come from God's garden. It should be real.
Mm-hmm.
And then helping our individual little four-legged ones navigate which ones are best for them. What I heard you, if you and my wife would be speaking the exact same language when it comes to, feeding. It's a high protein, lean,
Absolutely.
good quality proteins. A little shout out to the caveman here. He's a local guy, creates good food. I love that he has a dog version of that. So if you
Mm-hmm.
guys are local, he certainly has great options. We get a lot of our steaks from him as well, which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. The idea of it being clean. One of the experiments my wife pulls all the time. So we do some dog rescue, and when they come in, typically the owners will say, well, they're giving up their dog or surrendering their dog for whatever reasons. They'll say,
Mm-hmm.
here, this is their favorite food. And this is where it gets interesting. More often than not, it's like some kibble. Everyone's doing the best that they can, whether it be their resources and their knowledge. And it
Right.
might be like the best kibble out there. And then my wife will immediately put down a bowl of the kibble, that's their favorite food, and then put down just like a raw meat or
Yep.
lightly cooked or something. And immediately the dog goes to the real food.
Correct.
And then immediately we see the physical body change and the behavior change. And it
Absolutely.
sounds like you had that experience as well.
100%. I dog sit, and when I have the dogs over, I discuss it with, the owner, is it okay if I feed them some of these things? But when they come in with dry food, I will do the same thing, and I'll incorporate real food, and I will notice differences in the bowel movement the next day. And if we're not paying attention to the bowels, if it's diuretic, well, what's going on? Circle it back to the diet. If you're removing that and you have instantly better stool the next day, well, it's got to be what you're eating. So I totally agree with you. It is being aware. It's being aware of how the animals are responding to the food, and when you see that difference, I mean, it speaks for itself.
Mhm. You know, so it makes me want to go into this space, and I think you'll be comfortable. It's kind of almost what I'd call the weirdo space.
I love. I'm weirdo
Yeah.
all day.
When when I hear you say that, and what I keep hearing is intention.
Hmm.
How much do you think the intention of preparing the food, of provide the intention, the thought process, the love, the passion that goes into that I'm going to prepare something intentionally for this
Hmm.
entity that I love that came from what we'll call one of God's children, right?
Hmm.
This creature, how much do you think tension plays a role there?
100%.
Mm.
Truly, it really does matter. And it goes as far as it's the care factor. And if we understand that this is all energy based and everything is an energy exchange, if I'm giving the energy of love, he's taking in the energy of love. And if that's the highest frequency, whether it's food, whether it's walks, whether it's a bath, that is what makes the difference.
Mm.
And in this physical reality that we're living in, we have, those are our markers that we take on, is, the nature aspect, it's the food aspect, and those are all signifiers, and we have to pay attention to those signifiers. And you're right, if I were just to throw down a bowl of kibble to Willie and walk away from it and hope he eats it, versus, okay, he's a senior, he has to stand on a rug, so I make sure he stands on that rug while he's eating so he doesn't slip. It's even those small details that matter. But if I were to walk away and he's on his own, he might be a mess on the floor, but he doesn't realize it, So it's 100% intention. Absolutely.
Love it. Well, firsthand. So I'm going to give a little shameless plug to our organic cafe, Prema, for a moment.
Absolutely.
So, and you work there, and you get these. So when my wife and I'd have to lean on my wife. She really kind of drove the intentionally naming it Prema, and Prema to love. And the idea behind that was, so we, as the purveyors of the food, would prepare that food with love, with intention, serve it with love, serve it with a smile, serve it with that extra something. And that was kind of the whole concept, because we too recognize that there's such a value in intention, no matter what it is, whether you're intentionally saying hi or smiling at someone, giving them a hug, or providing them with food that's going to nurture or nourish their body. Real interesting. This is just a couple hours ago, I'm speaking with one of my clients. We're on a consult and we're talking about nutrition. And he said, "Doc, is this weird?" He's like, "Whenever I go to these mom and pop stores, like restaurants, he calls restaurants." And he said, "I go to these mom and pop, no matter what it is, he said, even when I'm not eating good, I always feel good when I eat their food." And he talked about he's like out in St. Louis somewhere, and he goes to this little mom and pop burger joint, and he says he always feels good. And I said to him, "So listen, there's something true to that. It might be the same quality of food that you're getting from fast food, but the intention that goes with it, I think, is one of the most overlooked components of health, healing, love, vibration, passion." So I love kind of that you lean into that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and I want to talk about the time factor here.
Yeah.
So, for those of us that have dogs, and so is Mr. Willie solo? Does he have any other siblings or any other family
He is
members?
solo now. Yeah, he had a brother who passed away a couple years ago, and we unfortunately lost our cat this year. So he is on his own. But that's where, when I dog sit, he has friends that come through. So he's never truly alone. So we do our best with that. Yeah.
And there's certainly something powerful about connectivity and group and pack and all that. Timing. So most of us that have dogs, if we're lucky, in today's environment, we'll get a dog somewhere between 8 and 12 years. If we're lucky, if we're really, really lucky. When I grew up, it was super special. I had two dogs. I had this one dog, his name was Puff, and one dog named Shabran. He was a beautiful Afghan, and Puff was this little poodle. And Puff lived to 16, and my older dog, Shabran, lived to 18 years old.
Wow.
And since that time, we never had a dog I've never met any dogs that really live past like 15, 14, and it just seems to get lower and lower. And statistically, when I look into the science right now and I look into the data, the truth is that the dog lives are getting significantly shorter.
Absolutely.
We don't see many 18-year-old dogs anymore. And that's why it's such an eye-opener. It's one of the reasons I wanted Mr. Willie to be here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, I got to imagine in the first 5, 8, 10 years that you and Mr. Willie had a certain type of bond, correct? I know the bond that we have with our dogs, and every dog listener out there understands there's a very special bond that you have with your animal. And I think for many reasons, we don't have words. We don't get to communicate. We literally just show up with energy. Jenna, do you think, or is there any noticeable differences between the bond that maybe you had in that first phase of life, second phase of life? And I kind of think he's in now in like his third phase of life, his senior years. Has that changed, or is there any way you can articulate what has changed?
Honestly, I feel like if anything, it has become more of a true mutual bond in beings. So when I first had him, his first several years, you go about those routines. I walked him, I did all the things, but I realized as we sank into the relationship that the love really started to develop and the true connection and the understanding and the true partnership. And I believe, we find our animals and they find us when we are in need.
Mm,
And the first probably 10 years that I had him in my life were incredibly, tumultuous. And, we all go out through our life things. But this beautiful being has always been there for me
mm,
with no questions, with no doubts, with no hesitation. He's always been there for me. And the only difference, and it's more of a transition than anything, is now it's my turn to really be there for him. And when you have an animal that gets in their later stages of life, it really does like become like you have a baby. And the fact of you really need to be there for them. And I think that the time that I spend with him and some of my other family members who take care if I can't be there, um, when they stand in for him and they're there for him, it makes a huge difference.
mm.
But it really is just being there and having that connection. And honestly, I come home excited every single day to see him. It's almost like he's brand new to me again. And that has really opened my eyes up to what I believe the value of life is and how we go about understanding it truly. Sometimes you wouldn't think you would get that from an animal, but they give you so much more if you really just stay open to it.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Times eight, sometimes times 10.
Yeah, in all those phases you're talking about, there's sometimes the routines,
Hmm.
and I think that we're just all accustomed to routine. I'm a very routine guy, so I go through the routines, and then with their different animals, different phases of their life, there's just different experiences happening. So, would you say, and you don't have to, but do you think there's any ways you could articulate how maybe this has actually he's helped you grow as a human being?
Absolutely. So, this is just me speaking. So, I can't have children. And so, for me, the relationship that I've had with this being has given me that mother like experience
Mm,
to be able to take care of another. And that will never go away. When I'm around other human beings that are children or other animals, I give them all the love I can. But really understanding, taking care of another being that really is dependent of you, has given me such a beautiful reward. To understand how you can bring the best out in somebody and then for yourself.
mm,
And I wasn't always a good dog mom. I think when I was in my early mid 20s when I had him, I was leaving home a lot and doing things and being, young. And then I think him and his brother, they brought me back to you. We have you, you have us. This is the priority. You chose us. This is the responsibility. So be responsible. And then that just kept continuing to build. And I just have so much appreciation for that. But I feel like if we look at them as just animals, sometimes that's what you'll get out of it. But when I look in his eyes, I see another being. I don't just see a
mm,
dog. And I
mm,
think that's a huge difference. And it's really brought that deep, profound love that I never knew that I was looking for, but
mm.
realized that it was with it all along.
Yeah. uh,
They
yeah.
really tug at your heartstrings.
It really does, and I'll say, so I know when some people are going to hear this, Jenna, and some people are going to maybe even push back and say, well, it's different. They're not humans. We shouldn't treat them like that. And I kind of beg to differ. I love humans and I love animals. And I think that the animals, and maybe you can agree, and maybe a lot of the listeners would agree, that they, I think, often teach us how to see better in other human beings. So I know that, I have a couple of animals. You've met Dr. Bob before.
Hmm.
And I know that Dr. Bob has the opportunity. He's touched a lot of lives.
Absolutely.
And yeah, right. So we get to come across him. And so I learn from Dr. Bob every day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And one of the things that I learned is that he's acceptance of everybody. He finds the kindness and the love in everyone. He brings everyone up a level into
Hmm.
a state of love just because that's what he just is that.
Correct.
And it's so unconditional because there's no room for words and judgment and all the other things that go along with our
Hmm.
relationships as humans because we are so imperfect.
Hmm.
And then sometimes I don't know if animals aren't perfect, but they're damn close to
I
it.
know. Yeah.
Like even when we have bad days, we can count on that one thing, that
Absolutely.
one place of solidarity, that one place that's going to be 100% out of love and no judgment when we get home on that particular day. And to your point, even when we don't do it right. And I
Yep.
love that you shared that because my wife and I, we've learned so much over the years. We've learned a lot of ways not to do things. And
Sure.
then we've learned better ways. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you here today, because I'm always looking for another opportunity to just
Mhm.
level up my ability to serve, these incredible creatures, etc. So, all right. So thank you for sharing that. That's man, I think we can learn so much from our animals.
Without a
Yeah,
doubt. Yeah.
yeah. So would you say that it's actually helped you just in your own personal relationships?
I believe so. So one of the biggest things in his older age, and I realized it, longer ago, but it's really hit me these past couple years, is he has brought me into practicing presence.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is when we go on our walks now, they're slow. He takes his time. We might not get a whole lap in because he can't do it or doesn't want to. But if I'm on my phone or if I'm distracted or I feel like I'm in a rush, um, I'm almost losing the connection that I have in my surroundings, let alone with him, when the focus should be on what we're doing together.
mm,
And I think that that is one thing that has been huge for me to understand, is being present. And so, if I can take that learning and understanding from my beautiful animal, then I can take that practicing presence with other beings.
mm.
And when we're there to practice presence and being in the present moment, we're meeting each other where we're at, and there is no judgment, there is just what's currently happening. And it might sound a little bit, in the grand scheme of things, it's always like the holistic bigger picture, but having that moment where I'm just there and I'm holding that space and we're enjoying it together, it translates so many ways, and it translates in Prima Cafe 100% every single day. Every human being that comes into that door, and the animals too, because we love our furry friends. It gives me that moment to practice that presence for each and every person that comes through there. And like you said, it's a better way to serve our community. And at the end of the day, that is so important because we need community now more than ever with animals and with humans.
Yeah. Amen to that. And I'll tell you what, this is very interesting too, because when we go through and we really make an observation of the favorite people we have in our lives, they're the
Mm-hmm.
people that are most present with us. Like when they're in front of you, just like you said. And I love it. And thank you for that reminder where my wife and I make a practice not to bring our phones on our dog walks
Yep.
for that very purpose. We have the whole span. We have the little ones that run 200 miles an hour and
Yeah.
they're not present, frankly. They're
Right.
not,
Right.
they're just not, they're just experiencing that part of their life. It's 100 miles an hour.
Uh huh.
And then we have Dr. Bob, who is
Right.
exactly to your point. And boy, is it testing my patience.
And that's it's a hard one, but it's also beautiful to witness that unfolding that we're experiencing.
Yeah. You're so spot on there. And for all the peeps out there that have, their pets that are moving into their senior years, that's what you just said there, Jenna, is so powerful. Be patient with them. Give them back the
Hmm.
love that they've given you and how graceful they were with you and all your
Hmm.
perfections and imperfections. Bob literally goes out for these walks and I think he's figured it out. This is what happens. He just goes and it's like 200 degrees out and he's got a big furry coat. He said bulldogs are not built for the
Yeah.
summer in
Right.
Florida. So we go
Yeah.
out. He goes and he now knows that he'll go as far as he can go away from home,
Uh huh.
pause, look at either Kelly or myself, and we got to carry him back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like this unwritten thing that takes place and which which that unspoken word is one of the things that I got to imagine after being with Mr. Willie for 17 plus years
Mm-hmm.
that you can kind of finish each other's sentences. So
Without a doubt.
yeah, so this is then I want you to elaborate a little bit. So my wife, she knows me pretty well. We are all creatures of habit, right? So at any given time, any given day, you could probably, if you just want to know what I was doing, you could just call my wife and be able to say, "Where's Bart? What is he doing?" And
Right. Yeah.
she could probably nail it to the minute and to the action of what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, which I think is kind of neat. Like, I think it's kind of neat. Like when someone else really knows who you are and
Hmm.
there's no judgment there. And so let's talk about you and Willie for a moment.
Absolutely.
All right. So are you in that point of your relationship where it's just energetic? So much of it is energetic. It needs less words. It's just you figure it out and you were able to fulfill those needs, those needs.
Absolutely. It's kind of best of both worlds. So he is routine to the max.
Hmm.
I know when he's going to wake up to want his lunch and go to the bathroom. We are so routine with his walks in the morning. We're so routine with the walks in the evening. And believe it or not, this dog loves car rides.
Mm.
So if it's too hot outside, we hop in the car, he goes in the back seat, heads out the window the entire ride, just living his best life.
Yeah.
So I feel like the energy is given a little bit more to give what he needs because I want him to stay active. I feel like that's a huge part of the longevity is if this dog is just sleeping all day and he's not going for his walks, then his body's just going to start shutting down.
Yeah.
And we need nature, we need sunlight, we need the fresh air, and so he's no different. So I feel like I can feel in moments of need when he needs a little bit more,
Hmm.
and I can feel in moments of need where it really is just follow the routine.
Hmm.
But that is the relationship that we have. It's the ebb and flow, and it's pretty predictable. But then when the unpredictable happens, you just react accordingly. And I know him so well. I know how to handle those needs when they come about.
You know, Jenny, you just mentioned that you put him in the car. Did you know, like, do you understand how powerful that is? Did you know that that is as therapeutic as a walk? So
I believe. I
there's
totally
some,
believe.
yeah. So there's actually some deep science to this. So everyone out there listening, maybe my dog's just not that active and they don't move as much. They live their lives. They go, it's nose, eyes, ears. So their entire life is through their nose. So their
Mhm.
ability to go out for that walk and sniff, it's a sign of a healthy dog. And
Absolutely.
that's why I'm sure Mr. Willie is just every little pee station, every part of the road.
Yep.
And that tells you, man, he's still on point. His
Yep.
body might be slowing down, but his senses and his desire to learn and experience. So when we drive our dogs, I learned this years ago. I had an older guy. His name was Norman, big bulldog, couldn't really walk anymore. So I
Hmm.
put him in my Jeep and just let him sniff. And it was like his eyes woke up. And I didn't know it at the time until my wife was teaching me the other things about like dogs learn everything through their nose first, and it keeps them alive.
Right.
When you're driving down the road and their nose out the window, they're picking up all those scents and it's
Hmm.
stimulating their brains as if they were walking. Beautiful. I
Yep.
love hearing that. So,
You feel
all right,
so fulfilled.
yeah, it's so amazing. So this morning I took a couple of my dogs for just riding the truck. It's
Uh-huh.
it's 100 degrees out there, and I throw them in there, and it seems so subtle and so weird, but they all get so excited and they go. So I had 4 or 5 of them in there this morning. Roll down the windows, crank up the AC, windows down, and we just
Yep.
drive around for 20 minutes, and we come back. And it's
It's perfect.
yeah, and it fulfills them.
Yep.
They were not designed to just sit in the house, and
Not at
no
all.
different than humans like us. If we don't move it, eventually we will lose it.
Absolutely.
And that is also why it is so important that we have people in our lives and or animals that are kind of like-minded in a weird way, that
Hmm.
they may help us level up
Hmm.
when maybe just be easier to lie down.
Absolutely.
Right. And then that's where even partners, I'm very blessed to have a wife that is not going to let me sit around on the couch and get fat all day. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just not going to happen. And for us as the dog owners to know that we may think that they're comfortable just lying down all day long, but that's not comfort.
It's not doing them any justice.
Yeah. It's not doing them any justice here.
Yep.
All right. So again, a little bit of shift here. So
Yeah.
because I have in my brain, I have all these different questions that I want to ask you. So we talked a little bit about the food. We talked a little bit about just the gift of time. And we could spend all day on that, quite frankly, because I think
Yeah.
there's so many values. If we could have ourselves a healthy dog for long periods of time, every one of us would just sign up for that. And,
Correct.
and all right, so the shift I want to make this time is to a little bit about your health philosophy.
Hmm.
So, and I'll elaborate on that. So, I've been in healthcare for 30 years, and even my philosophy has remained pretty consistent of that 30 years. I believe that health comes from above down, from the inside out. That
Hmm.
the power that made the body is the same power that heals the body.
Absolutely.
We are healing machines,
Hmm.
and the gift would be to get out of the way and give our bodies the tools, the space, the energy to heal themselves. Now, my practice of that philosophy has changed over the years. And some of that meaning with my comfort levels in my knowledge of
Mm-hmm.
different things.
Mm-hmm.
Share with me a little bit about the health philosophy that you have for yourself and for your dog. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have some other questions, especially I want to ask you if there's been any turning points.
Sure, sure. So, I feel like my health philosophy for myself has been evolving for many years. And just as a food base, we'll start there. But I was plant based for about 20 plus years, and I've taken some changes and I've incorporated more proteins into my life, and it has helped my body feel bigger and stronger. And so my biggest philosophy feels personally for me, and I know we're all different in how we receive it, but I've always felt like it's been just intuitively guided. And so what I mean by that is I feel like I listen to my body as much as I can.
Mm,
And if it's telling me something, then I make a change.
mm,
And I know that it's the intention behind it. And whatever I change and navigate, it's either going to work or it's not. So if it doesn't work, okay, we evaluate and we move on. And what can we do? So I've been doing that with food my whole life because I mean, a lot of us, we're all eating, we all consume, but it's also how much are we consuming, what are we consuming, and that kind of translates into the rest of our life. So it's what's my environment like, who am I around, what am I consuming, and how does it make me feel? At the end of the day, if I'm not feeling good, then something's going. And for me, I feel like every intuitive step that I've taken in the health route, whether it's learning a breath work or going through a meditation or taking a yoga class or switching a career move, if it doesn't feel good, then do away with it.
mm,
If it feels good, then keep going with it. And it sounds so simple and easy, but a lot of us don't follow our intuitions. We either do what we're told, we follow a curriculum that is not meant for us, or we're put into a box that we shouldn't be put in. And I feel that's the same way with animals. And animals just don't have that voice to tell you, I don't feel good. So if you're not aware in your own environment of how you feel, your philosophy for the animal is going to be the exact same. So if my dog was sick and I'm healthy, well, then clearly I'm doing something wrong. But if I'm healthy and my dog's healthy, then the philosophy all around is well.
mhm,
And I believe that there is a lot of time spent on consumption and things that doesn't matter. And I feel like when you take all of the fillers out and you get back to what the true alignment is of self and love and practice and going within, it all translates and literally just oozes out like a river. And that's kind of how I've built my lifestyle and learning. But we don't stop learning, right? I feel like I learn new things every day. And if I take what I've learned and I don't put it into action, then I'm not doing myself any service.
yeah. So and thank you for articulating that, which means that if that is your approach and that's your philosophy, it means inevitably along the way you've had to kind of go against the stream, right? You get against the flow, maybe against some conventional, I don't call it conventional wisdom, but conventional
Sure.
practices
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even advice and share what you want. But did you ever come across scenarios where maybe you went to a vet, there was something going on, um, and you just had to say, man, this doesn't feel right for me. I'm going to take a different direction. Have you ever been faced with any of those situations where you were bold enough? Because this is where I think you hit right on it, where I don't know if enough people trust their intuition. I think a lot has to happen in order to have a clear, intuitive
Yes,
thought.
absolutely.
Frankly, we can't be full of drugs and alcohol. We can't be, you know what I mean? Like full of toxins and poor
Correct.
thoughts and stuff.
Correct.
There has to
Yep.
be maybe the meditation, the beach walk,
Mm-hmm.
the grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any situations along your journey here that maybe you said, man, I hear you, thank you, and I'm going to head a different direction?
Yeah. So I've got a couple of examples, and I think that I don't mind sharing. And I know that it can always be a hot topic for people when we talk about things that might be, I don't want to use the word triggering, but it's kind of a hot topic. But I've had a couple of experiences where I have been to a conventional vet, and I genuinely believe that people in these practices and in the healthcare industry, there are such good intentions. But when you're following a curriculum that isn't meant for everybody, you have to ask yourself, does it feel right for my animal or does it feel wrong for my animal? And I'll give you just specific examples because this is real life and experience is how we learn. So when I was younger, again, the dry dog food, I thought I was doing right things and I was getting my dogs vaccinated, take them to their vet, get the annual shots. But I noticed that every time I would take both of my dogs to the vet, about a week later, they would both be incredibly sick. They would have some kind of infection. They would be throwing up, very abnormal behaviors. And in both of my dogs, they developed tumors. So while you can't see Mr. Willie has a huge tumor on the side of him. And while there's no issue, it's just a fatty tumor, that did not start to grow until after he started getting vaccinated. The same thing for my dog, Benny. Benny lived to be about 15, but I believe he died from cancer. But he had tumors internally in the body. You could feel them all over. And again, when there were vaccines that were happening and there were vet visits and he was getting shots, he was having neurological issues, almost to the point where his back legs would stop working. So if I'm doing everything normally, and this is the one factor in my life that I'm changing for them, and it's not going well, and there's adverse effects, then I'm going to stop doing it. And, I'll use another example. And I this one kind of, it's still a soft subject, but my sweet cat. My cat, and you're aware of what's been happening in the area with the pesticide sprays and the county sprays with the animals and the reports of the animals getting sick and some are possibly dying. So I moved locations 6 months ago and I'm in a different home. And out here, I have noticed mosquito control sprays pretty aggressively. And I lived 5 years in my neighborhood where the lawns were treated heavily with pesticides. You couldn't touch a lawn without it being sprayed everywhere. And my cat was okay. I was always, she would go out and come back. But back in March, I believe that somehow she was exposed to some kind of poison or toxin and she died pretty quickly. Very, very quickly. Very healthy cat. Nothing was wrong. And then within 36 hours, something happened and she passed away. And there was a vet that I went to, and it was, I believe, again, the intentions are pure, but sometimes in those areas where the vets are overrun, maybe the care is not being given. I feel like the level of importance about how severe the issue was maybe a little bit overlooked. And they wanted to vaccinate her. They thought maybe it was rabies. And my heart of hearts, I trust people and I shouldn't have made the call, but I said, okay, if you think that this is what's best. And they did give her a vaccine, which I understand now, like you learn, you should never vaccinate an animal that's already sick. And she did pass away shortly thereafter. And so I have to sit with that a little bit because even now in all of my learning, right, I made a decision that I don't think it made a difference. I think that she was still going to pass away, whatever had happened. But that brings you to the questions. What are we putting in these animals? What could have possibly harmed her? And if we just say, okay, and we don't talk about it like we're talking about it now, and hopefully someone else that would be listening to this episode would say, hey, I'm noticing that in my animal. Maybe I should ask some questions. That can make a huge difference. And so for me, again, it is that intuition. Does it feel right? Is my animal okay? Am I okay? And if we're not observing that, then we're having to take a step back to just really reflect on it. And so that's kind of where I have been in that realm. And that's just wholeheartedly. I genuinely feel, like you said, everything is from the inside out. I feel like we are powerful, beautiful, magnificent, magical beings that have everything we need within us. And if we're not answering those questions within, maybe we need to dig a little bit deeper. And that could be a little bit, extended question or answer for your question, but that's just how passionate I feel about it. And you have to share the real life experiences or else nobody's going to know.
Yeah. And thank you for that. So I remember the first time we had an aha moment, my wife and I live in pretty healthy lifestyles ourselves, but not necessarily full application in our animals.
Right.
Went to a vet, very trusted. They were like a specialty in bulldogs. We're up in Georgia at the time. And again, I'm 100% with you in agreement that the intention 100% spot on. Unfortunately, the systems and operations and
Right.
manuals, quite frankly, that
Yep.
interfere with sometimes best practices.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so my wife and I are at the vet. We have two dogs with us. One dog goes in, gets shots. I don't even remember which ones. Dog comes out. My wife goes in with the second dog. I'm out in the waiting room. Right in front of me, our little pug Tyler has a seizure 4 minutes after having a shot.
Yep.
In the middle of the room with everyone standing there, pees himself, poops himself. And I'm standing there in a panic, like, what's going on? And them acting like that had nothing to do with the shot. And I was
Wow.
just like, it was one of those moments that okay, put that one in the memory bank. Don't forget this one because I didn't even know why I was here. It was just like a reminder, like, oh, you're supposed to go get your shots. And I just kind of, quite frankly, just fell in line,
Mm-hmm.
followed the herd, went and got my
Yep.
dog shot. My dog was fine before,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even know what shots he got.
Yep.
Kelly probably would, but I didn't. And then the other dog came home and sat in a corner for like days and this
Mm-hmm.
big swelling in the back
Yeah.
and started the process of a tumor. And so it's interesting, and I want to share with the audience what a tumor is. So a tumor is the body's innate way of protecting itself from a poison within the body.
Mm-hmm.
It collects those cells that are damaged, that they've been infiltrated. They're opportunistic cells like cancers, like viruses and bacteria, and the body does everything it possibly can to encapsulate them. And the
Mm-hmm.
tumor will grow to the size needed. Now we look at tumors and say, "Oh my goodness, this is wrong. There's something wrong with the tumor." But that is actually what's saving the humans and the dogs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I love the fact that you are okay with there being a tumor on Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Willie. It's
Yep.
part of what's protecting him from all those toxins and from the bad
Absolutely.
guys on the inside. And
Yep.
yeah, they're oftentimes they're elicited from a lot of things that we're just not paying attention to. And I think that in today's environment, we have to get better and better at paying attention because the cards are stacked. The cards are
Yeah.
stacking up against us. You brought up things like pesticides and herbicides. Most people don't even consider that a part of their dog's health.
Yeah.
We learned some hard lessons this way. We had this one little dog. So I think we had three moments in our dog history that really helped us define our current path. We
Mm-hmm.
had this one amazing little dog. His name was Cooper. He was a little English bulldog, and he had the worst allergies in the world, like the worst. And his skin had all this like redness. He ended up developing elephant skin, which like his skin just like would fall off his body. And we did everything that was within our knowledge.
Right.
We got him the steroids, we got him the allergy medicines, and we got him a holistic vet, and we did it all. And we weren't really doing that good with his food. But one of the things that was crystal clear to us when we went and played in the beautiful green lawns, it made it so much worse.
Oh,
So
wow.
much worse because those beautiful green lawns had all the chemicals and toxins on it.
Yep.
And now I know, yes, everything goes into your skin, goes to your liver, and then it pushes back to
Mm-hmm.
the skin. If it's toxic, you're going to show up. I don't care if it's psoriasis, eczema, ringworm, all of those things
Right.
that's an inside out gig here. So
Right.
learned a lot from that one, started changing the diet, learned a lot from the tumor situation. We used to kibble feed at the time, and then when our first bulldog that we got together, we had a dog named Angus, special dog. And when he was older, we eventually did like an X-ray, and we saw a big tumor within his cavity. We said, "Okay, we're not going to do anything about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is a phase of life. We're going to let it be there and
Yeah.
let it be
Yep.
stable, and then we'll help him through these years." And then we had another dog. His name was Mr. Biggs, and he had these chronic ear infections. And through all of these, we just started learning a little bit more each time.
Correct.
Yeah, and I share that because it sounds like you were on that same journey. I think all of us. So we get to the point now where, yeah, some of our dogs eat raw, some of them are lightly cooked.
Mm-hmm.
They all have
Mm-hmm.
variety. You should see the preparation my wife makes. And when someone says, is it easy? Absolutely not. It is not.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that makes it easy is that we wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah. Yep.
It's an
Absolutely.
easy decision because we're not doing it another way. We are not putting just like my wife and I are not showing up at McDonald's.
Yep.
Just not
Right.
happening. It's easy,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah. Yes.
We're gonna come home and cook, and same thing
Yeah.
for our animal.
100%. Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think at this point? What is Mr. Willie teaching you now that maybe is just new for you?
It's a good question. So I honestly believe that he is teaching me an understanding of how to support someone who is about to leave their body.
Mm,
And I say that because that's the reality of where we're at. I was almost worried about him coming into the summer because of how hot it is.
mm,
Um, and he's been doing great. But you know, he's napping a little bit extra. He's doing all these things. But I think he's really taught me mentally, physically, spiritually, that there is something beyond these physical bodies.
mm,
And spending the time with him that I do is just being able to hold that space for another being. And my grandmother lived to be 98, and I got to help support and witness her end of life, beautiful, you know, just transition. And I feel that that's going to be how it's going to come from him. And I've also learned. So I did he did an energy session with Linnell a couple of weeks ago.
mm.
And for those of you who are not familiar, Linnell is a beautiful energy worker that is out of balance once a month, and she did dog hula with several dogs.
Yeah.
And I took Mr. Willie, and I was like, I'm just curious if how I'm feeling with him, if she's going to pick up on any of this. And she was spot on with what I'm going through in my life. She told me, she was like, he's not bored, he loves his life, he's attached to you, but he's not, and he doesn't want to go. He's not ready. But when she said to me, he's attached to you, but not, it made me remember. I always say it, but just practicing non-attachment, right? Nothing is permanent. From the food that we eat to even our lives, right? We will die at some point. But to be able to witness that at my stage in my life with my beautiful being that I have been with, to me, that is almost one of the most special gifts I could ask for. So he's taught me to hold space for that. But the biggest thing is practicing non-attachment. So when he leaves this earth, will I be sad? Absolutely. But I will also understand that I'm practicing non-attachment, and that I will always have that gift of having that time with him, whether he's with me or not. And right now, that's kind of the biggest thing. And then the patience factor, like you had said, you know, when you're going for your walks or when I'm feeding him his meal, I'm feeding him, it's an activity. I'm feeding him several small meals. So it's really just every moment, just practicing that presence and being there. And it never gets old.
Yeah, it never gets old. So you kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask you in another way. So I meet so many people, and I would say my wife and I think all of us fall into this category a little bit. What would you say to someone who is afraid of their dog, of this companion they have in their life, of this unconditional love? What would you say to someone who might be afraid of their dog getting older and one day not being there?
I think that the fear stands in the way of being able to truly take care of them.
Mm,
And whether we realize it or not, they feel our emotions. So if I'm scared or if I'm mad or if there's a tense moment in the room, I'm always looking at Willie and what his reaction is. And they know. They don't have to say it, but they know. And I think that fear is a natural thing in life, right? Fear is sometimes survival instinct. And I think that it's taking a look back at ourselves a little bit deeper. Well, what are you really afraid of? What is the fear? Is the fear of dying? Well, then explore that a little bit. But don't let that affect how much love you're going to pour into your animal. I've had moments where I thought he was going to pass away several times, you know, through health and wellness things. Things happen, right? They genuinely happen. But I then had to take a look and revisit, why am I having this experience? And we can't let our own fears be projected on other beings. I think that it helps us if we are noticing the fear, it's just pulling it back and witnessing it a little bit more so we can learn how to love ourselves a little bit better and not be scared, and then have that same for the animals.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Goodness,
Yeah.
that was beautiful.
Hey, thank
All
you.
right, so I want to wrap up on one thing then. That one's got to sit in for a second. That was good. All right, so Willie obviously is nearing some phase of his. There he is. Now I'm talking about him, and he sits up. Great.
I told you he's listening.
So, all right. So I want you to imagine for a moment that Willie can understand all of your words.
Mm-hmm.
And you had an opportunity to say something to him and he would understand all of your words,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell him?
So it's funny that you say that because I talk to him quite a bit in those ways. Um, and it kind of, so my beautiful grandmother passed away in October. And that's when I really feel like I was like, okay, Mr. Willie is there as well. And it kind of put things into perspective and honestly probably helped me let some fear go in having that experience. That was the first closest person to me that had passed away. So I feel very fortunate that, I got to spend that time with her and with him. But sometimes when we're on our walks and I notice that he's a little bit slower, a little bit more calm, I always tell him that he has been the best partner that I've ever had.
Mm.
And I always tell him how much I love him and that he is more than willing to go on his own terms. That I hope that I'm not holding him back, and that I've understood that either I'm going to be here for him when he passes, or I won't be because life happens and we're at work and we're doing things. But I always just tell him how much I love him, and then how excited his brother and sister are to see him again when he crosses that rainbow bridge.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
he knows it.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. And you just told the whole universe. Uh, well, Jenna, I'm going to leave it on that. That was first. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing
An honor.
your insight, wisdom beyond what I expected today. So I'm
Oh, hey,
so
I appreciate that.
so I'm so glad that I saved some of these questions for us to share publicly like this. And thank you for being willing to put your heart on display and talk about an amazing relationship that you have with Mr. Willie. Mr. Willie, we
Thank,
appreciate you. Yeah, you're awesome. Thank you for being here, hon. Thank you for just
thank you, Bart.
literally just spreading love. And that's always been the goal of this podcast, to keep it simple,
Always. Yep.
spread some love, and to keep leveling ourselves up and seeing how we can become more educated, to grow, to learn, and to really just become the best version of yourself. And today, no doubt, not just for our pets, but some of the wisdom you just dropped on us is definitely going to help us as human beings as well. So appreciate you. Love you, girl. You have
Thank,
yourself a blessed day. Thanks for being here.
thank you so much. Okay. Bye.
Bye, sweetie.